Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure if Siv and Paul are going to arrive, but when they do, they'll catch up. And I think we do have a quorum. Let's start with a call to order. So I'll start the call the meeting to order at 6:06. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. You all can't see it, but right out my front window is my flag. So if everybody would repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And let me do the roll call real quick here. Chip Kohler, I'm here. Brian Gephardt.
Here.
Carla Rabbi.
Present.
Ashok Desai, I know he is absent. He actually notified me. Jeff Bowen is not here. Kathy Lang.
Here.
Siv Mahante. Susan Howe.
Here.
Paul Whitman. Benita Verma.
Here.
Brian Kilgore.
Brian is here.
Here.
Right, thank you. Brandy Mayhew.
Here. Present.
Good. Kelly McMahon.
Present.
He's here. Eric Chu.
Yeah, right here.
And Gerald Green, I think I saw him on, yeah.
Yes, present.
Okay. And is there anybody else in the audience that I missed? Now, we also do have one more on the line, just so everybody knows. There's a person or a device called streaming image or streaming audience rather, and the school district has made arrangements to be able to stream this out to the internet if anybody is interested on the outside of viewing our meeting. And also recording. So we are being live recorded and potentially viewed. I guess we don't know who is viewing, or do we, Eric? Do you know? Or Brian, either one of you guys know if there's a way to know who might be viewing? I guess not.
I'd have to ask about that. Just reminded me that we were doing this for the first time today. So I can look into that and find out and see what our ratings were tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be like a 99. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's had a good month distancing and everything else that we're doing. It's not easy. I know for you working folks, it's got to be difficult. But welcome back, and I hope everyone is healthy and your families are healthy and everyone close to you has remained healthy. Is there anyone else that needs to be introduced or logged in that we don't know about? I don't think so. If not, does everybody have the agenda? Everybody should have an agenda. Everybody should have the minutes from last meeting, the quarterly finance report, which would have been the April report because we're getting these quarterly now. And since Brandy was absent last month due to an emergency, she's going to present that today. And then Kelly's monthly status report also went out today. So everybody should have 4 handouts. So let's first start off with the approval of the meeting minutes from April 8th. Are there any comments, corrections, additions?
Chip, I just want to mention my name was spelled wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Vinita.
Vinita. Okay,
Yes.
I got it right there. Vinita. I got it right there. Where? Just so I know.
On the status.
Where did I misspell it?
Status. Number 5.
Number 5. Thank you. Oh yes, right. Okay. I see it now. Okay, I will correct that. Thank you.
Chip, this is
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes, Kathy.
Who's taking the minutes for today's meeting?
I'll prepare them like I did last time. I'll be taking notes. If anybody else would like to send me their notes at the end of the meeting or tomorrow morning, I would greatly appreciate that.
I will
I know
do.
last month Kathy did that and Brian
do it
did that.
again.
If anyone else would like to send me their notes or something that they want to definitely make sure gets into the minutes, please send me an email. Okay, is there any other comments or anything to the minutes from last month?
I'll move we approve the minutes with noted correction.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? In that case,
Chip,
we will.
Chip, there is a poll button somewhere on. You can actually take a poll. So maybe next time we can experiment with that too.
Oh, okay.
And then
I didn't know.
there's a raise hand one too. People can
Yeah.
raise their hand.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't know about the poll.
I never use it. Let me
I did
raise
know
my
about
hand.
the
Did you see anything from me? I raised my hands.
Chip
Susan raised
should
her
be
hand. I see that.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that. And Carla
good.
raised her. Okay, cool. What am I supposed to do with them once you raise your hand?
Oh, is it still being raised? Oh, lower hand. They have one called lower hand. I did lower now.
Okay.
That's cute.
All right, let's keep moving right along. Let's see. Is there any oral and written communications? Was there any public comments that need to be brought up? Voicemails or emails that were sent in? Kelly, do you know of any? Or Eric or Brian? I'm not aware of.
No, I don't think I have any.
None that I'm aware of.
I just spoke with Sharon about a half hour ago. She said we did not receive any either.
Okay.
And
Okay,
Sharon
good.
joined.
All right.
Chip, I have a question from community.
Yes. Yes.
The question was again for Kelly, and I have written it to her. I don't know whether she got a chance to look at that or not. The question was that is Horner going to be open in September, or Horner Middle School, or is it going to be transitioning later on?
It's my understanding that Horner is going to go as planned for the fall semester. So they will be ready to receive sixth graders at that time. As far as the actual tentative dates and actual schedule, I don't have that information. We're waiting on the task force that's dealing with that to give us the actual calendar and dates and times of things. But Horner is ready and will be ready to receive sixth graders in the fall.
Okay. I thought that you mentioned the inauguration is not going to be done until later.
I do not know the exact date, but I do know that they are planning on having something for, so are you talking about the ribbon cutting or for the promotion for the students?
I don't know what you mean, but what I meant was fifth graders moving down to sixth grade at Horners.
Oh, that is going to be left to the principals of the specific campuses that those students have those events actually happening at. I don't have any information or the particulars of what is planned, but it is being left up to the principals of those schools for those activities for their students.
I was not talking about graduation. I was talking about when the fifth grade from Hirsch and other feeder schools to Horner, when they, so will the sixth grade for the feeder schools be at Horner or be at their school that they did fifth grade in?
Correct. So it's my understanding, and I can verify with student services and Debbie Ashmore. It is my understanding that the principals of the schools that have the students who will be promoted from the fifth to sixth grades, they are being left to decide what actual activities will occur for their students within this school year. So the district is not taking on the responsibility of doing that. They're leaving it to the school sites to actually come up with something. The only thing the district is actively taking responsibility for is for the high school seniors and their graduation and promotion ceremony.
It sounds like there's a miscommunication. Kelly, I don't think Vanita's asking about promotion. I think she's just asking if Horner is going to be ready to receive students in fall of 2020, and it sounds like your answer is yes. Beyond, what we know for COVID and everything, that's a separate issue, but the building itself, it
Yeah.
sounds like is going to be ready and
Yes.
able to receive students if that continues to be the district's plan.
So they are actually moving now from the old building into the new facility. They started today and they will finish their move in on Saturday. And they'll continue to move the remaining sixth grade teachers that are coming from the various other schools. They're going to be moving their stuff from their old campuses into their new locations within the next 2 weeks. And the old building, the old administrative building, will begin demolition within the next 2 weeks. So it is a go. They will be occupying Horner come the fall. Our goal is to have the site ready for August 1st when administrators actually return.
Okay. And the ribbon cutting is going to be somewhere in August or later?
The ribbon cutting will probably be sometime in September. And I have contacted the superintendent's office to find out calendar-wise how that looks. And because they've got so many other things that they're planning for, they haven't given me an exact date yet. But Dr. Zamora said that he will confirm with me by Friday of this week with some tentative dates.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. All right, let's move on to Brandy with the finance report, budget reports. Brandy, you're on mute.
Chip, are you going to be sharing your screen to show the financial report?
I wasn't prepared to do that. I've actually never done that, so I'm not quite sure I know how to.
If you give me a moment, I'll do it.
I can do it too.
Okay. I just didn't know as the proctor.
There is a share screen button at the bottom. So
I got it. So I'm going to ask you for permission.
Yep.
To share the screen, and then
Perfect. Yeah, I like that.
you'll get something. Can you see my screen, folks?
I can.
All right. Basically, not much has changed since the prior report, which was January 6th.
Can you please zoom in a little bit more?
Sure.
I think you can, each person can zoom themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Just by using your fingertips. At least I could on mine.
So this is basically the overall summary of the Measure E projects at this time. We're at 669,000 with estimated and actual funding. And this number here, just a reminder, ties to the last page. So I'm going to go really fast to the last page so you can see it. Up one, I guess it's last page up one.
Page 9.
Yeah, so it ties to this number here.
Right.
The mouse moving, I don't know if you can see that part. And I didn't bring my actual site, so I'm struggling here. So we're still at 669. We have 273 million in expenditures. I'm going to go back to page 1 so you can see how that ties there. 273 million in expenditures. Again, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but yeah, not much has changed. So at the last report, which was January 6th, we had 262 million in expenditures, and so up to 273. That's the overall change so far from January to this 319 report. The next report is going to be ran on January 1st. And just a reminder, it's a real-time report. So it's not going to be a financial year-end document because the district does do backdating. But you will see the final Prop 39 numbers. We had a $757,000 reduction Measure E, and that'll take place on that report. So that's actually pretty good news. We had that much money freed up for Measure E. But other than that, not much has changed. Do you guys have any particular questions about this report?
Randy, what did you say the total expenditures were to date?
273 million. Can you see my?
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Right here.
Yeah.
I just like to show how it ties to the back page so you can see the balance. I know Brian appreciates that. He's a numbers guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also here too in the graph.
So what are people generally thinking that are close to the numbers and close to the projects relative to setbacks, slowdowns, and everything else with the virus, and the effect on the grand totals?
In my opinion, and from the people that I've been speaking with, the jury's sort of still out. We're in the middle of it, and so we don't really know this unprecedented event, how it's actually going to affect us financially in the year to come or years to come. Like no one saw what happened during the fires in Napa, but we just saw that lumber increased dramatically after that. So there's always sort of a lag time after an event when we actually see how it actually affects us. I don't know if Kelly wants to speak to that.
Well, right now, we are in the process of tracking our additional expenses that have occurred since COVID-19 shelter in place. But we have not realized any significant in cost of goods and services, because a lot of the work that we are already doing, we already had pricing and commitments for prior to the shelter in place. So the only significant change that we've seen first week, there was a minor slowdown in that a lot of the businesses didn't really know what they were allowed to do or what they weren't allowed to do. And so we kind of put our heads together, and based on what the governor's orders, the county orders, and then what the district mandates were, we were able to recover in terms of getting all of our crews back up and working like the 5th day of the shelter in place. So we haven't really missed any time, but we are going to experience delays on our projects that are on the design table. So these projects that were in DSA, or those projects that were contingent upon agency review or long-term review by agencies that we rely on, that is also being tracked to see how much of a delay we will incur. So by the end of this month, we'll have a bigger picture of those projects, of what the actual impact is, because now things that should have been going in the month of May are now being pushed into June and July. We're doing recovery schedules for those projects right now, and we'll be able to report out to those to you all next month.
Thank you, Kelly. One last note, this was pretty big at the last meeting I attended, which was the January meeting. Kennedy was still in future projects, and Kennedy was moved to in progress as of, I think, March 11th meeting. It was a March meeting, but I just wanted to show you that it did get moved to in progress.
Okay. And also, Brandy, there was a special question last month that didn't get answered, so we added it into the agenda for tonight regarding Kennedy and the additional projects: bathroom safety upgrades, baseball netting, other things that were authorized by the school board.
I believe Kelly answered that on her monthly update. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Just to answer the question, but I just thought I'd make note that Kelly did touch on that. This was from Carla, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right here, Carla. So everything that was on the presentation back in March is included in the $25.5 million. But some of the M&O things, well, maintenance and operations, what they'll be covering will be like paving, tree removal, and the ball field netting and storage, that kind of stuff. But I'll let Kelly expand on that when she goes over her report.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and give it back to you.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Okay.
You
Are
guys
there
have
any
any other questions?
any
sorry.
comments or questions for Brandy and the finance report?
Oh, I had a question. Is there a way to tell which of the projects are in design from the report?
From the report, no, but I can tell you that the group 1 projects, we are getting for an architect. Is that right, Kelly?
I didn't quite hear what you said.
The group 1 projects, those are the ones that
Hearing to solicit services for right now.
I couldn't hear you.
Those are the ones that we're preparing to solicit services for right now.
Yes. Sorry.
All of the group 1 projects?
Yes.
Well, all of the group 1 projects, group 1 included the added IT scope, and it included, now it includes Kennedy. So Kennedy is already in design because it was on hold previously. So to blanket the whole thing saying all group 1 are in design or all group 1 is on hold, you have to remember that Kennedy is included in group 1 and it's already in design. And there was one other project, I think, Washington Theater. So that one's already in design. Brian, you look confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, was it that should? I was just trying to figure out. I figured some are in design, but some are already in construction, right? So I was trying to figure out which was which. So is it just the Kennedy and Washington Theater that are in design?
Yes, and then the rest of group 1 is pending an architect.
So let me explain. So right now, all of the middle school, so Thornton, Centerville, and Hopkins are all on the design table and in DSA being reviewed for they're all scheduled to potentially begin either the latter part of this year or spring of next year, based on when. So those are all ready to go, going, and in the process of getting actual hard bids started, and, getting the project moving.
Kelly, can I say something? Maybe I'm having hard time hearing you, but I think your mic is not working as well, right? I mean, or is it just me?
No, I always have the same problem.
Yeah, other people could also put their things on mute, like Siv and Kathy. That'll help with background noise. And Chip, maybe
I'll put everybody on mute to begin with, and then if you have something to say, you can unmute. Okay, Kelly, go ahead and unmute and then repeat what you were saying.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
My output. Hold on, let me see if I can. Is it better now?
Some people are shaking their heads no.
No? Okay. Let's see. I'll try one more thing. And
Are you on a cell phone, or are you on your computer, or what's your device?
the office, but our reception is really bad here. And let's see. How about now? Is it better now?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
I'm trying all my outputs. So I have all I have all these different things hooked up. So hopefully, let me try one last thing. Make sure my volume is up on the.
Sure, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. Oh, what I was saying was the middle schools that are finishing are your Horner Middle School, Walters, American High School had some modernization, and then the remaining middle schools are the ones that are going to be actively finishing design and beginning construction. Then you have your group one elementary schools that are going to start their design process, as well as Kennedy High School is in design right now. Because when we got board approval in February, or was it March? They all blend together. When Kennedy was approved for the additional scope of work, 2 weeks later, the architectural team began working on the designs and the modifications that were approved. So that project is underway and actually moving. The actual heavy construction or main scope of work is not going to be started until next year. I can't speak for M&O, but I do know that many of the M&O projects have already been scheduled, but due to the shelter in place, a lot of that work was kind of stalled. So we're hoping that once the shelter in place is lifted, that we'll see progress on those items pretty quickly because they've already been scheduled.
If I could just reply briefly, the intent behind my question was trying to understand which projects were at risk to delays due to going slower through the Department of State Architect or other third parties. And my impression was that anything that's still in design could potentially hit those kind of delays.
And you are correct.
And so most of the projects in group one are at some level of risk, it seems, except American, Horner, and Walters.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just a follow-up question. What's the source of the delay? Is it, because I thought construction, especially school construction, was considered an essential business or essential function, and that because of that, work that's, say, being done on Horner is still being worked on. So I'm kind of just trying to figure out.
So when they talk about essential services for construction, they're talking about the projects that are actively already in construction. And so the design services are still part of the construction process, but they are not necessarily called essential services. And so because we are a public entity, we rely on agencies that are government run. The government is still in shutdown. So we have no control over how quickly or how slowly those agencies actually review our work. So part of the problem is COVID, in the sense that COVID's shutting everybody down. But the government agencies are also working with limited staff to do what their essential services are. And they have prioritized projects that, if it affects transportation, healthcare, or fire, life, and safety, they have the first priority for their review. Schools, because they know that they are not being occupied right now, kind of take a second or third seat to those other projects that are actual high priority for the function of the community at large. So that's where we're experiencing our delay. It's not necessarily the construction process, but it's actually the steps that lead up to the construction process that allow us to then start construction that are being delayed. So that's where we're experiencing our biggest hit. So for example, normally the Division of State Architect there's probably 9 or 10 planners that work Alameda County in the Bay Area. Currently, there's only 3 that are still working that are still required to review all of Alameda County. So, I mean, that gives you sort of a perspective of the level of delay that we're experiencing. So, but once the shelter in place is lifted, all those folks that are considered in their world to be non-essential will be brought back to work, and the wheel will start again. But who knows where we fall in the pile of reviews. And so Dr. Zamora and I have been very active with our state legislature and letting them know, hey, we really have priorities. So whatever you can do to move the needle for us once things open back up, it would be really appreciated. So those are the kinds of things on our end that we're trying to get things to move as well. I hope
Okay.
that's a question.
Yes, that helped.
Okay, is there any more questions or comments on the budget report? If not, let's move on. Let's move on and continue with Kelly and the status report, some of which she's covered, but why don't you keep on going, Kelly? And if you need to share your screen, you don't have a screen. So you guys are gonna have to look at Kelly's report that was sent out this morning. Oh, she did share her screen, or somebody shared.
So this was sent out to Chip yesterday for distribution with you all, and this is a brief summary of all the board actions that have been taken over the month of April. So April 1st, we had 9 items that were executed and approved by the board. So number 1 was the public hearing on the needs analysis for developer fees. And both of those actions were approved and adopted. Number 2, we held a public hearing for the increasing of developer 1 fees, and that was also adopted and approved by the board. Number 3, the Measure E bond expenditure update, which is the report that Brandy is actually sharing with you today. That was reviewed and accepted and approved for the first quarter of 2020. Number 4, we had a contract amendment for SVA architects for the Rick Splankler Learning Center. And if you all recall, the board had approved the previous month in March the expansion of the scope of services for Rick Splankler. So this amendment was to support the architects' fees for the additional services that we requested of them. Number 5, the Thornton Junior High Conversion Project, the EIR report was reviewed and received and accepted by the Board of Education. Number 6, the Roebling Construction Services contract was approved for Horner Middle School. Number 7, the service contracts for DSA inspectors. And this was for the inspection services at Horner Middle School. Number 8, we had 2 agreements for new inspection services and material testing for the projects that are getting ready to get started at the Washington High School. And that is for the theater improvements as well as some of the utilities and modifications that are occurring on campus for the rest of the modernization. And then also, all of the departments received an update on the COVID-19 preparedness that the district has been doing during the shelter in place. There was an emergency meeting that was held on April 3rd, and that was to designate and identify what essential government functions were and essential business services for the district. That was approved and executed on that day. And then we had another board meeting on April 22nd, where we amended the agreement between Bay Area Geotechnical Engineers for Centerville Middle School. And we also had agreements with Vista Environmental to do pre-design and design phase industrial hygienist services for the new construction and modernization at Hopkins. And number 4, we had an amendment to the Bay Area Geotechnical Group, Geotechnical Group engineers for the Rick Sklankler Early Learning Center. And basically, for those that don't understand, the geotechnical engineers, they do all the site testing, soil sampling, and soil compaction testing for the sites to determine what amount of load we can actually place on the soil surrounding the buildings. And then they also do testing to make sure that there are no unidentified hazards in the soil that were not clearly already spelled out. And if there is something that is hazardous or not appropriate for a school site, they provide a report for us, and then we mitigate those items and remove them from the site. Then we also had a series of questions, I believe, that you all had posed at the last meeting that I was unable to attend. And I tried to answer those questions as Chip had posed them to me. I don't know if you want me to go through them or if you all just read them on your own, but I'd be happy to do either one.
Why don't you go ahead and summarize them?
Okay. So the first question was asked by Carla Cox, and I believe that we had spoke about this earlier. So Kennedy has a $25.5 million budget. The additional scope that was approved by the board for the additional work is not adding any work to, well, I should say it's adding work to the scope of work, but it's not forcing us to go outside of the already established budget for the project. So many of the things that were added were items that were not in the original scope of work, or if it was in the original scope of work, it wasn't as comprehensive as what we had asked it to be in the revision. So we had some cushion and contingency in our overall program budget that we were able to go ahead and utilize and expand the scope of work so that we are not going outside of our overall budget for the project. So you guys should not anticipate seeing any additional cost outside of the 25.5 million initially, because we have the funds available to accommodate the potential changes.
Okay.
So can I just ask a follow-up? There's a note that says review the CTC report. What is the CTC report?
Cost to complete.
And where would we have access to the CTC report?
Those are attached to the agenda items on the board docs. It's on the main board meetings.
Okay. And then I don't know if everyone attended that previous CBOC meeting where there was a parent from Kennedy that came to our meeting and had mentioned concerns that they had about the there's like a Kennedy like round room or a theater that I think the parent's son had, I think, fallen out of and had injured himself. Do we know if the current projects that are planned would address that parent's concerns?
Yes, actually, if you review the previous presentation that was taken to the board, that music and theater modification and modernization was included. And since that time, we did have an opportunity to speak with the music teacher and the principal. And the design team has met with him as well as another sound engineer that's a parent, I believe, at the school. And they've actually developed a scope of work for the room that'll be appropriate for what it is that the school wants and needs are. So yes, we did address it.
Okay, great, thanks.
So the next question are the costs going to be funded by maintenance funds and no impact on Measure budget or reserves? And as I had said before, there will be no impact to the Measure budget. M&O is covering many of the other items that were identified, such as modifications to paving, There's a request for some removal of trees that are causing hazards in walkway areas that they're going to do. The ball field netting and storage and security were actually in the works prior to the approval of the scope of work. So those are some of the projects that are kind of in a holding pattern right now due to the shelter in place. But the ball field netting was addressed. And I believe that the swimming pool fencing also is being addressed as well. We have purchased additional storage containers, and security has also been increased on Kennedy's campus. They're currently, due to the vandalism and break-ins, we have some temporary perimeter cameras that have been installed that have helped to minimize the impact of additional break-ins and additional vandalism over the last 3 weeks. So the other, let's see, on to number 3. I'm sorry, C. Is there going to be a cost and schedule impact on construction projects due to coronavirus? Well, as I said before, we are experiencing some delays for the projects that are in the design phase, but the construction, those projects are still ongoing. And as I said, we have not finished monitoring and collecting all of the costs associated with that. So I don't really have any financials to share with you, but we have issued policies and procedures from the district that mandate that all of the contractors on site adhere to the protocols identified in the governor's order for social distancing and wearing your protective, personal protective wear. So that includes glasses, masks, gloves as necessary based on the type of work that you do. And of course, all of our sites, they are required to have safety shoes, hats, safety vests, things like that. But as I said, once I get more information, I will share that with you all.
And I do have a follow-up questions on this, not kind of related. I want to ask because I know a lot of government agencies right now, because of the budget deficit, there are a lot of budgets being cut. Including even like not just operating fund, but also for some of the capital improvement program. For this one, I know the money is already being locked up in the Measure E. Is there any chance that the money will be cut, or the funding or budget will be cut for this program?
No, our funds are not affected by the budget.
Not okay.
No, the Measure
Great.
by the budget.
That's good to know. Thank you.
So item D, let's see. So what measures have we done to utilize the shutdown or the construction schedule? So many of our projects, we have resequenced work so that since we don't have campuses that are full, we're taking full advantage of completing work that we can do while students are not on campus. So for instance, our Prop 39 projects for lighting, all the campuses that were earmarked to have LED lighting done, those are actually being done now rather than having to pay a night shift fee. The work is actually being done during the day. And we've been able to pick up about a month's worth of time in being able to do a full 8-hour day versus incrementally nighttime work or weekend work prior to the shutdown. Another instance is Thornton. We've been able to resequence the work so that this summer we're actually beginning the utility and the site work and the ball field work. So those weren't slated until next spring, but because we're not having a active campus, we went ahead and swapped some things around and resequenced the work. So now that work can actually begin almost 3 months ahead of schedule. So we're definitely looking at all opportunities and take full advantage. And Horner, for example, those ball fields were not scheduled to start until late August, and we're actually starting on those this month. So we are picking up time and seizing the opportunity when we see fit. Item E, let's see. CBOC would like an assessment of how coronavirus will impact the projects that are nearing completion, especially those that were scheduled to be completed in time for the start of the next school year. Well, fortunately, those projects that were scheduled to be completed for this school year will still be completed for the school year. We are not anticipating any delays. Lila Bringhurst is scheduled to come online for this academic school year as well. Corner will be ready. Walters is ready. And I believe all the other schools have been already opened. And those that are beginning their pre-construction, the interim housing phase will begin for those, where we're going to start bringing portables on campus and starting to move classes to interim housing, so that the areas that are going to be modernized will be ready come late, December, early January, for actual work to begin. Let's see.
Kelly, I have a follow-up on item D.
Item D, yes.
So the question was about, not exactly about the opportunity of construction as such, but it was about the material, because we had been told multiple times that material cost is increasing, it's rising, the labor cost is rising, we don't have labor, we don't have material, everybody is competing for the same things.
Yes.
The companies are competing with us on the when it comes to the material, because everybody is using the same material. So my question was regarding, can we hold on the material, can we somehow collect more material so we can use it?
We have actually been very strategic in how we've been purchasing our products over the last 4 months. So we have some very good, block construction has been very good. They have secured their pricing as well as their supply chain for their projects that they've been working on. McCarthy has also done the same thing, in that prior to the shutdown, they already had pricing in place and for the products to be delivered in a timely manner. The only experience that we had with the McCarthy project, we did have an HVAC unit that was coming from the Midwest that was delayed by 2 weeks. But because we were able to recover in terms of having the mobilization occur quickly, we just resequenced some work around that, so that when the piece of equipment arrived, it was quickly installed, and kind of things just kept moving on. But we are monitoring that. But as Brandy said, right now, we are not able to really tell you all what that impact is, because we're kind of in a holding pattern along with everybody else until the shelter in place is lifted. And we are anticipating an increase in cost of materials, but I believe that we're in a good position because we had a lot of products already purchased or have a purchase order in place for it before the shelter in place occurred. So those businesses have to honor those prices that they had already committed to us before the shutdown.
I was actually thinking the other way around, but that since nobody is buying those materials, and we are a few of those who are buying it, we might be getting it for cheaper. I did not know that we are talking about higher cost. I thought we are talking about lower cost. That
No, because you have to remember, just like we're in this position, all the other school districts are in the same position. So we're all vying still for the same products, as if we were not in a shelter in place. And so the suppliers are kind of in charge, but because we had actively executed purchase orders prior to the shutdown, our prices are being held in place. So we're not going to necessarily experience that rise in cost as if we were going to be like, oh my gosh, let's hurry up and buy something now, because we're going to then be getting in line behind other people who are also trying to do the same thing, if that's what we were trying to do. So we shouldn't immediately see a price shift, but I expect us to see a price increase come October, November, December, because the way construction works too, we have already secured our materials anywhere from 3 to 6 months ahead of when we actually will need them. And so whatever we are acquiring on the site right now, it was already purchased in November or December of last year, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it does. But then we are taking away the multinational companies, the multi-billion dollar companies out of the equation because they are not constructing right now. They are not essential businesses, if I assume right. So having said that, maybe um, I mean I'm just thinking hypothetically that maybe they are not in competition with us right now. We are only in competing with the schools. So competition should be less instead of more. I know it will get again in October, it will be more because those companies will start constructing too. But as of now, probably not too many people are constructing. So the suppliers who have more material are they have excess of material they want to get rid of. So maybe can just thinking out loud.
I don't know, Gerald, do you want to add to that? Because I'm at a loss for words right now.
So not every suppliers that supply certain types of contractors don't supply other types of contractors, right? So you've got the bigger guys who are using a lot of the same suppliers, and you have the smaller guys that are using different suppliers because that's where the business goes, right? So you've got everybody who buys from a particular supplier, they're going to be competing for that same business, if that makes sense, at the same time. So there's not going to be any break on a price. As a matter of fact, there's going to be an increase in price.
Okay.
If that makes
May I add something?
Yeah, Brandy.
I was going to say, even if we were to get a price break, which we probably won't, as Gerald was saying, where would we put it? We would have to pay so much money in storage that it may not be a benefit to even do that or look into it. So that there's and we don't even know what we're going to be needing. Yeah, we need steel. Yeah, we need lumber. We might need electrical, these kind of things. But the projects are still in design. And so we won't have that sort of quote unquote shopping list just yet. So there's a lot of variables you have to take into consideration before like buying things.
And
just out there.
The other thing too that you need to consider, and I think we spoke about this last time, the way the contracts work for public works is that the owner only pays for work that has been put in place and completed. So we pay contractors on a progress payment type scale. And legally, we can only pay them for the work that's been completed. And so by definition, the owner owns that piece of work, even though they don't take possession of it. So a contractor might be 35% complete, and you give them progress payment number 15, and the owner owns up to that 35%, but obviously the contractor is still working. So when you start fronting a contractor money for work that hasn't been completed, legally it becomes an issue because it's taxpayers' money. So you've given a contractor money to go off and buy a long lead item that he or she has not had to perform yet, and they could potentially use that money for things that the bond did not intend for. So it's a slippery slope, and the law and the contracts currently don't allow for us to do that, to start fronting a contractor money for long lead items. One, and two, it would be hard to quantify what those savings would be because the contractor is paying for this at wholesale. So we don't know what his or her cost is on anything. And we take their word for it, right? So there's a whole host of issues that you get into when you start doing that. And I don't know that it would be any real benefit price-wise.
Okay. That makes a little bit more sense then. Yeah.
Okay.
Question.
Any other questions for Kelly and the project report? Kelly, we used to get a report that the title of it was Measure E Project Update, and it was broken down. It was a tabular format, usually about a page and a half or so. And it was broken down into the projects that were in design and those that were in construction. And there would be some comments about what the status was of each project, what the project budget was, and the scheduled completion date, so we could see month to month how projects were moving along.
Okay,
Are you going to start doing that kind of a chart for us? We really like that one.
Fire, I wasn't aware that we provided that. I hadn't seen an example of that. So I will go ahead and do that if that's something that you all want.
You know the chart I'm talking about, or you want me to send it to you so you have an example?
Send me an example, that would be great. 'Cause
Okay.
That's what we did.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. Okay, let's keep moving along to update on school board action items. Well, I think Kelly did that already. So we'll keep moving here. We're doing good on the timeline. Last month we talked about in June we'd like to have a briefing on the plans for a follow-on bond to Measure E. Talk about things like timing, what projects would be proposed at a high level, approximate dollar value, just out of curiosity and information for the CBOC. Are we still going to be able to do that next month? Brian, maybe you can answer that one. Kilgore.
I can go back and ask what the plans are for meetings in June. I'm not aware of any concrete agendas yet. We just had the agenda review for next week's meeting yesterday, and there are no items like that that I recall.
This
I can
may
answer
not
for
be an
future.
agenda item for the board, but there was more of an agenda item for our committee, just so we know what the board is thinking in the future.
Okay, I can definitely look into that.
Okay. And are there any other future CBOC meeting topics that we want to put on our shopping list for the future?
Can I add a suggestion, kind of building on that last item? And obviously, schedules may have changed for the district staff given the COVID-19 situation. But I think at one time there was the beginnings of being able to look at the updating the facilities standards, which would be one of the first steps towards an update to the long range facilities plan, and which would potentially lead to trying to put up a bond and that sort of stuff. And I guess, assuming I'm not misremembering, but my impression was that there were some plans to start to do that, Ms. McMahon, and if there's, I think that might be a useful version of that item if there is,
Right now, the tentative plan, I did speak with the assistant superintendent and the acting superintendent about this earlier this week, and the plan is for us to solicit services beginning in August for a revision to the long range facilities master plan. They wanted to kind of get out from under the shelter in place at this point right now. And we have 2 items on the agenda for next week for a new pool of architectural professionals for us to choose from, as well as a new batch of construction management professionals to choose from. And once we have those pools adopted and in place, we can then solicit those groups of people to then begin the process of what you're talking about, looking at updating our facilities long range master plan and doing updated needs assessment and prioritization based on the information received. And that's probably a 3 to 6 month process once we start it. So we wouldn't yield those results or summaries until spring of next year, if we start in August.
Okay.
So thank you. That sounds like a good synopsis of the information that's available at this time, or likely to be available even next month on that item.
Correct.
So Brian, is there a topic that you want to add for either next month or in a couple months?
I guess it would be when the right time to talk about this would be, I guess, in the August-ish or September-ish timeframe when the when you go out for services. It might be the right time to get another update from staff on how the long range facilities master plan is evolving.
Okay.
And then that's really gets at the heart. I mean, that's like the first steps towards, what a next bond will look like. So that would be, I think, helpful to CBOC to kind of follow along with updates from staff on how that's doing.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have a topic? If not, is there any other new business or discussion topics that we want to address or discuss tonight?
Hi, this is Kathy. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There was mentioned the schools whose name I can never remember, the new one over by Warm Springs, Delilah, whatever. That is opening.
Bringhurst.
Yes, is that opening in September?
The plan is to have that open in August, yes.
In August?
Well, I say August because the school.
Whenever, but I mean, so they've resolved the issues of having enough students?
The district is in the process of managing that. There are conversations being had right now as to what that school will be. The developers currently only have 18 students that are enrolled that will come from that in attendance area in the new development. So we are looking at taking our various programs and potentially relocating some of them at Bringhurst short term to utilize the school and kind of offset some of our overflow situations that we have at various schools. But I'm not privy to the exact details at this point, but those are the conversations that are being had right now. And we are preparing to have Bringhurst available for open enrollment beginning in the fall.
Thank you.
To follow up on that, I'm sorry.
Only 18 students? Is that because the houses in there aren't selling, or are the families don't have children?
The houses are not selling as planned, and the families that are purchasing are childless.
Wow.
I'll add briefly that there was a updated demographics report presented at the last school board meeting that I recommend people check out and watch the recording to kind of get a sense for, the expected decline in enrollment over the next 7 years.
So for a follow up on Kathy's question, and maybe Kelly, or Turner, you can just say that. When you say that there are some programs that are going to be shifted over there, what does that mean? Is it? I hope we are still not talking about Harvey Green moving over there.
I don't know the exact programs. My role in that is to make sure that the facility is available, and I get secondhand information in terms of what programs. So I don't really know what specific programs they're talking about. I just know that I was told to prepare to make sure that the school is ready in August for potential of having 2 to 3 programs occupy that site and have active, education and enrollment in the fall. So I don't have the particulars of that. So maybe that's possibly a question we can submit to the superintendent's office to get more information on. But unfortunately, I don't have all the particulars available to share with you all on that.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question. Who will have the answer? But thank you so much.
I can just add in that Bringhurst has been mentioned as possibly being utilized in one of the immersion programs, or potentially as the magnet school for one of the immersion programs. We've also had some talks about potentially using it if the need arises for more social distancing based on how things look in the fall. But as Kelly said, there's been no concrete decisions yet.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if I may add one comment, given the the challenge when some of that was discussed in the board meeting in early March. I hope there's a robust community engagement plan around any decisions being made there.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, Brian?
It was a statement. I hope there's a very robust community engagement plan around any decisions around Lila Bringhurst and programs there, especially given just the number of the amount of community interest in the last plan that was presented in early March.
It's my understanding they are doing that, and I did sit on a call with special programs and instruction, and they are devising a plan and should be presenting that to the board within the next couple, the next 2-3 meetings. I don't think we have that many, so it should be coming up soon.
Well, I'm hoping there's an element of community engagement being thought through as well, right? That there's the ability for the.
There was talk of having additional meetings and virtual meetings with the community, since we can't do meetings in person. And I believe that they are engaging all of the various groups that would have buy-in into any decisions. But as I said, I'm only hearing things secondhand and very limited bits of information that I have available to share. So, but I do know they are planning on doing that and actively seeking ways to make that happen.
Okay. If someone wanted to get involved in that, how would they get involved in that?
I would actually talk to Christy Rocha or either Fran, and I always forget Fran's last name, but those are the two administrators who are kind of driving the coordination and the efforts with some of the special programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That would be Fran English. She's our special education director.
Thank you.
What's the enrollment capacity for that school?
1,200.
And it's a K through 6th grade right now?
It's K through 6.
Okay.
Capacity of 1,200, and I believe it is 2 to 3 grades, 2 to 3 classrooms per grade at this point. And I do know they have the capacity to have 4 special day programs.
It's in the Kennedy attendance area, right?
Yes, it is.
So that would be nominally K through 5.
Correct. But we have the capacity to do K through 6.
Well, I mean, the capacity is the capacity. The grade spans is another interesting challenge.
I agree with you because they have Walters Junior High is Walter Middle School now. So technically it has to be K to 5, not K to 6.
So there is one slight exception is I think it's whichever school has the Mandarin immersion program, I think they still have 6th graders at that school because the Mandarin immersion, even though it's in the Kennedy attendance area, the the Mandarin immersion program that those kids would go to would not be Walters. And so I believe they still technically have 6th graders, even though they're in a Kennedy attendance area.
Oh, thank you for calling that out. Yeah, because they matriculate to Hopkins, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. But the elementary school program is still in the Kennedy School District. It's all confusing.
Yeah.
Which school has the special needs program?
I think all schools have their. I mean, I don't know if there's a particular school that has a special needs or special education.
I thought that at one time Blankler was.
I was going to say the Blankler site
Special needs.
our special needs program, but all of the schools do have special day programs where they do have kids directly on site.
Okay.
You're integrated in with all the other students.
Okay, I didn't realize that. So Brian Kilgore, when you said immersion programs could move to Bringhurst, does special needs included in immersion, or is that different?
I believe that would be different.
Different, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
We have some strange scenarios going on. We have North Fremont, which is Thornton and all those schools where they are completely impacted. They don't have any room. They are overflowing. And then we have schools like Lela Bringhurst where we don't have enrollment. So, and then we have Park Mount too. So it's very, I don't know what is a better option of utilizing these schools since we don't have buses anymore. It's an interesting situation.
So I guess I would note, well, this has been a very informative conversation, but from an agenda standpoint, we should be careful how deep we go. The Facilities Advisory Committee has been looking at this as well, as I know staff has. And in fact, the Facilities Advisory is meeting in a few minutes, so where this is on their agenda.
Brian Gebhardt, do you know if there's a Zoom link? Can I join in?
I don't know the protocol around that, actually. I don't know. I mean,
Is it a public meeting? If it is
Kilgore, I don't know how we account for. I think we think it'll be streaming, so you can watch it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The link I just provided on the chat, I believe that's the same link to get you into the FAC meeting coming up at 7:30. So just stay on that channel and you'll be able to watch.
Okay.
So the link is just to watch, but it sounds like Vanita wants to attend the meeting. Are the FAC meetings considered public meetings that she would be able to attend?
She should be able to. I can send you the Zoom link that I have.
But I think the protocols on this are I mean, even we haven't discussed the CBOC what the protocols are on. I know that the school board, for example, does not have public attending their meetings, and you have to provide all comments by email now in advance of the meeting.
Right. Brian, this is Sharon. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Because it is a Brown Act compliant meeting, we did begin with this meeting for the CBOC and for FAC doing live streaming and recording of the meeting. Just as someone said, in order to comment, you would have to go to that FAC email and submit an email, and it would be read during oral communications. So there is no invite to the meeting except for the members, but it is made public for the public to watch and to see, and then it's recorded. So I hope that helps. Karen, I have a question, a follow-up. How does that meet the Brown Act in terms of it being the meetings being held in public, with the public being able to access it if they have to provide, like they can't comment in real time, if that makes sense? No, they can't. It's like the board meetings. They can send something in. The board meetings have a Google Doc that they use now. They went away from the email because it was too cumbersome for them to maneuver through the meeting. But it does work, because if you have a comment on something, you can send it into the email and it will be read. You just can't participate, but it does meet the Brown Act because you are allowing, we can't congregate. So it does allow you as a public person, someone in the community, to watch and listen and know what's going on at the meeting. And that's the compliance part that we understand fulfills the obligation for the public.
And there were some modifications to support these difficult times with social distancing. I don't know all the details, but I believe
Yes, they've made concessions in terms of postings and because no one can be in the same room. So it's a little bit different. So we're trying to maneuver our way through and find the best way for the public to be able to see what's going on in the meetings.
All right. Any other comments or topics to be discussed? If not, our next meeting will be June 10th, 6 p.m. and more than likely another Zoom meeting. So just as a reminder, if you want to send me your notes for incorporation into the minutes, please do. And I think we're about ready to adjourn. Not seeing anybody else with a comment. I think we'll close out the meeting at 6:20 or 7:22. And thank you everybody for attending, and look forward to seeing you next month. Stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.